When it comes to the recent Resident Evil remakes, one thing Capcom has done with them are small changes within the stories. And this is sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. And with Resident Evil 5 more than likely being the next remake that Capcom will venture into, I'm going to talk about a few changes that I would like to see in regards to Jill Valentine's character. And I have two main ones that I would like to see. So we'll go ahead and get started on what I would like to see. The first thing would be I would love it if the Lost in Nightmare story was to be the beginning of the game. Like that's how we kick things off. It could be sort of like the prelude to Resident Evil 5. And I think this would be really cool because for one, Resident Evil 5, a potential remake of it, would more than likely be the first game under the RE engine with co-op, unless Resident Evil 9 has co-op and it comes out first. And if that's the case, then this would be the perfect segment to pretty much introduce the mechanics of co-op. And I think that would be really cool doing that with Chris and Jill, where they venture into the Spencer estate to look for Spencer and question him about Albert Wesker's whereabouts. I think that would be a really cool chapter one, learning the new mechanics of co-op. So that's one thing. The other would be that it would be way more impactful if we start the game with Chris and Jill and we see from the start Jill's sacrifice to save Chris from Wesker at the beginning. I just think it would be way more impactful because then we would feel what Chris feels throughout the story. Because it was always kind of weird in the original where we are just told at the start that Jill's dead. Like that's the thing, Jill's dead. This major character gets killed off screen and it kind of made things feel a bit unbelievable. Like no, there's no way they would kill off someone as big and major as Jill off screen. Whereas if she is shown to have sacrificed herself at the beginning of the game, it becomes a little more believable because now it's like, oh crap, we saw Jill at the very start jump out of a window with Wesker to save Chris. So she may very well be dead. New players might think that. And so I think it'd just be a lot more believable if they did it in that direction. And it would just be a lot more impactful too if you see it right from the start as opposed to several chapters into the game. So that's one thing I would want to see with Jill's character is that the Lost in Nightmare story is what kicks off the game so that that impact of her sacrificing herself can really shine throughout the whole game. And then after that, we can have it start like usual where Chris is riding through Africa and he meets Sheva, and that could be like chapter 2. So that's what I would like to see right there. Then the second thing that I would love to see for Jill's character comes all the way to the end of the game, where, and I've mentioned it before, I want to see Jill participate in taking down Albert Wesker. When Josh and Jill show up to save Chris and Sheva in the volcano, I want to have it where Jill is also wielding an RPG to fire at Wesker. That's something that I think needs to happen because she's been in this game just as long as Chris, and she deserves to have a moment to finish off Wesker just like Chris and Sheva do. Maybe even more so considering that she was under mind control for so long, doing terrible things and was fully aware of it but had no control. So I definitely think that she should have the moment alongside those two characters to kill off Wesker. So those right there are like the two major things that I would just really like to see for Jill's character in a Resident Evil 5 remake. I think it would just be really cool to see that. And then maybe if they wanted to, they could throw in maybe an update at the end of the game regarding her rehab and how things are going. Maybe there's like a little scene of Chris visiting her or something, because this is the last time that we see Jill canonically until the events of Resident Evil Death Island. So it would be kind of cool if maybe at the end of the game they kind of throw in an update of some sort and we kind of get to learn a little bit more about that and go from there. But those right there are the two major things I would like to see. The Lost in Nightmare story kicking off the game and Jill getting to participate in killing off Wesker for good. Something else that I just thought of that they could add in would be to showcase from Jill's own perspective the experimentation that she had to go through. So they could add something like we see Wesker extracting the T antibodies from her body to stabilize Ouroboros, and we see Wesker attached the P30 device to her chest for mind control, and then we see her inner struggle trying to get control, but she can't. And so I think something like that would be really cool, and that would be a really good moment to add that first person perspective moment in like a cutscene, since Capcom tends to like those moments. Much like in Resident Evil 3 Remake, where that starts off in first person, you could have a moment like this in first person from Jill's perspective, where it's basically just a cutscene showing all of those events and what she was struggling through during that time. I think that'd be really cool as well, to sort of flesh it out even more so than what we got in the original. Because in the original, she just sort of explains to Chris the horrible things that she went through, how she was still conscious of everything she was doing but had no control. I think it'd be really cool if we could get a little bit of a cutscene showcasing all of those things and seeing it from her actual perspective. So that's another thing that they could sort of add in to give Jill's character even more stuff in a potential Resident Evil 5 remake. That's what I'd like to see. What are your thoughts? What kind of things would you like to see them do for Jill's character? Because she is a major character, and I just feel like she deserved a bit more than what she got in the original. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video here, and I shall see you all on the next one. See you then.